Hello YouTube, Captain Mac here, and welcome back to the life of a virtual airline pilot. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the series that started it all is in Season 4, and we are trucking right along, continuing with our 737 tour around the United States. On our last flight, we had a very short flight with a missed approach, flying into Casper, Wyoming, and today we're going to depart this lovely airport and head on over to Salt Lake City in Utah. Now, I used to have a nice add-on airfield for Salt Lake City. I do not anymore because it was FSX only, and I'm simply not paying money for another one. I do wish we had add-on or better airfields in general for all of these, but it is what it is. So, let's take a quick look at the plan of the day. Hold on, let me get this set in the right spot here. What is going on? There's always something going wrong here. There we go. Sim Toolkit Pro, taking a look at our flight plan. Casper, Natrona County International Airport to Salt Lake City International. Delta Airlines Flight 3117. Ground or air distance today is 395 nautical miles, just a little bit further than the last one. And we're looking at trip fuel of 7,377 pounds. A final reserve fuel of 2465. We'll probably just put 2.5 in there. And block fuel is 13,976 pounds. Coming on down the list here, we got 184 souls on board, not including the flight crew. 500 pounds of cargo. Payload is 42,800 pounds. That puts us at a zero fuel weight of 134,700 pounds. Takeoff weight's looking at 148,200 pounds. Our max is 153.7, so we're good there. Landing weight 140,800 pounds, so we're well under our max there as well. There are several NOTAMs out there, but none of them really are applicable to what do you call it? Simulation operations. That's the word I was looking for. So let's take a look at active sky for our weather here instead of using this guy here. Hit the refresh real quick. We are planning on taking runway 3 for our departure. Winds are 280 at 3 knots. Altimeter 3010. And I think that's the gist of it, if I can talk. So what do you say we climb up in the office and get to work? Alrighty, folks, and diving right in here. The flight plan has been obtained and filed. It's a relatively short one. Passenger and cargo weights are set. Fuel is calculated and ordered. Weather briefing has been obtained. I forgot to look at our weather charts on Sim Toolkit Pro. So let's just take a quick glance at them. I usually make it a point to look at these. So here's the route for the day. Pretty straightforward. Not too far into Salt Lake City. And then we're going to go up to flight level 300. For some reason, it had the flight plan from SimBrief at 16,000 feet. I don't know why you'd fly that low for that far, but we're going to go up to 300. So the closest we got is this one here. Probably going to be similar winds up at 300. Looking at headwinds pretty much the whole way. Normally, I show that before we jump in here, but there you have it. Moving on. Charts are ready for use. The exterior inspection is complete. Fuel is loaded and verified, and the passengers are boarding. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us into our cockpit acceptance checklist. The parking brake needs to be set. It was, then it wasn't, now it is. Battery should be on, which it is up top here. We've got ground power on the aircraft. Electric hydraulic pumps are off. That's these two over here. Landing gear is down. Start levers are in the cutoff position. Overhead fuel valve lights, these four here, are illuminated. Ground power is on. We need to test the fire warning system. Left click and get some pretty lights. Right click, get some pretty lights and bells. Left click and get more pretty lights, and right click and get more pretty lights. I think you guys get the gist of it there. The emergency exits need to be armed. I forgot to do this on the last one. So we're just arming the lights, right? And not the actual emergency exit doors. That's done by the cabin crew in the back. Let's get both the signs on here. Put them on auto for now. Recirc fans should be on auto. That's these two up over here, which they are. Coughing in your face already. Engine bleeds are off. They're not off. They're on, actually. The engine bleeds off. Passenger boarding has commenced, and that completes our cockpit acceptance checklist. Alright, real quick before we take care of setting up the overhead panel, let's test our lights. Right click and hold the mouse button down and then move your mouse away. You should have all of these are blinking. Same thing over here. You know, I just realized I forgot to set the clock on the last flight again. All the rest of your lights should be on up here, down here. All of these lights are on, and then the Christmas tree look up top on the overhead. And it looks like all of our lights are good. Give it a left click. They all should go back off, except for the obvious ones. And let's jump up top here and start setting up the overhead panel. Yaw damper is going to stay off for now. Fuel pumps are going to stay off as well. Cabin, utility, and IFE passenger switches, these two here are both going to be on. Equipment cooling is normal and the lights are off. Window heat needs to go on. We need to test it first. Left click tests the lights or the power. Right click tests the overheat warnings. We're good on all those. Turn all 4 of them on there. The Pro heat stays off. Anti-ice stays off. The system A and B switches go on the hydraulic pumps here. Left and right packs both need to be on auto. Left click them. Isolation valve is in the open position. And then on the pressurization panel, we're going to be flying at flight level 300. And then yet again, I did not look at the altitude of our arrival airport. So let's take a quick peek over here. We are looking at KSLC's 4,231 feet. So 4231. You can see it's set to our last flight still, even though I closed the sim. 4231. So 4250 is what we're going to have on here. There we go, 4250. Exterior lighting, we're good on all of that right now. We don't need to change any of it. And the ignition left or right, we used left on the last one. We'll use right on this one. And that completes the setup of the overhead panel. Alright, we want to take care of setting up the FMC next, but before we do that, we need to get the IRS alignment started. Come all the way up to your upper overhead panel, right-click both of these twice. The on DC light should illuminate, and wait for the align light to illuminate, and then left-click them over to align. That gets the process started, and then we'll jump down here, go into our FMC, make sure we're in the proper model, AirX cycle is up to date. Go over to position initialization, type in your reference airport, which is KCPR for us. There we go. And then we're going to check this. It's 4254 106 27. We want to be close to that. 4254 106 27. I'm not worried about the point whatever unless these numbers are different. And then we can put that in here for our IRS position, and that gets us started. Go over to the route page. We do have a company route for this. It's KCPR. I remembered it's in there this time, to KSLC. And we don't have any number designator on there. We'll put that in company route. Flight number is Delta Airlines 3117. Put that in there. Activate, execute, and let's look at departure and arrival immediately. So we're not scheduled for a departure. However, there is a departure procedure out of here, and I think we're going to go ahead and use it. It's the Casper 3 departure, and I want to use that. We're going to take it out to the Riverton VOR. So departing, okay, that doesn't make sense. So it doesn't even show the Casper 3 on here. It's the Alcos 6. That's interesting. So I'm just looking here. The chart that I have is from the 24th of this year. So why am I not getting the departure that I would expect? Well, we're going to be taking runway 3. Let's go ahead and take the, you know, I want to say let's take that, but it doesn't show up on here. Standard instrument departure. Is it on here? No. I got Casper 3. Nope, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Standard instrument. No, it is on there. You know what? I'm sorry. I do have the chart for it. I didn't think that the departure suited us, but I guess that's what we're going to be taking. So there you have it. Lesson learned. So it'll be the Alcos 6 departure. And we will transition off at CKW. That'll work nicely for us, I do believe. So we'll execute that. Take a look at our legs page real quick. So there you have a discontinuity between CKW and DDY, which is interesting actually, because these waypoints are right by the airfield. Let me show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. Let's finish setting this up real quick, and then we'll come back to that, because we're gonna have to fix that, I guarantee it. 134.7 on the zero fuel weight, 2.5 on the reserves, and I've got wires getting in the way here. Coughing in your face some more. Cost index for us is going to be 85. And flight level, we've got it for 300. We may end up doing a step climb. We shall see. Execute that. Our runway length is 10,165 feet. We're not super heavy, but I don't see any reason to do a reduced thrust takeoff. I think we'll stick with this because we don't have TopCat. Yes, I have TopCat. Listen, it stinks. It's not that good in my opinion, and the guy, whoever developed it, hasn't updated it in years. So I don't trust it at all, not even a little bit. It's been so far off from what this, from what the FMC tells me on V speeds that you can't trust it at all. So we're gonna just go to takeoff 1, climb 1 for now. It'll be a flaps 5 takeoff, and the center of gravity at 25.6. That's gonna put V1 at 141, 143 on rotate, and 148 for V2, and I think that's gonna work out nicely. Now, with all of that said, we need to take a look at this because I'm not liking what I'm seeing here. Let's jump up here. The alignment should be complete. Click these over to nav, and it looks like the alignment is complete. That's good. That's going to help us out. And let's go to our plan page here. Excuse me. And let me pop both these up for you so it's a little easier to see. And let's see what we got going on here. So if we go to our legs page, so this is our departure here, right? And if I'm looking at the departure, this is correct. This is what we want to the intersection, then Alcos and CKW. And if we step down, so you can see here's Alcos, and let me zoom it out a little bit for you. All right, and then CKW is out here. And then for some reason, it's got us coming for our flight all the way back to DBY, and then to Gigabyte and Oily, right? So if we were to fly it like that, we'd come all the way back here, back over the airfield, and then out to Gigabyte, Oily, and then Borg, which looks like it's pretty far out here. So it seems to me that it makes a lot more sense to go CKW, then we can just, you know, hop, skip on over to Borg. I don't know why it's set up that way. I think the flight plan was anticipating a departure in the opposite direction. So we're going to go from Borg. We're going to select that here. We're going to go back here. We're going to put that right after CKW. That's going to delete all these other ones. Watch. Execute. Bam. They're gone just like that. Then when you step through, it's out to Alcos, then CKW, then over to Borg. There's our top of climb. And then it's to OCS. And we don't have our arrival in there yet. But just taking a quick look here, we are scheduled for the Nordic 6 arrival, and when we do our departure and arrival briefing, you're going to see that's going to work out nicely for us. So we'll get to that here shortly, and then I'll put that in there when the time comes. Put that on the map page, put that back over there, and what else we got here? I think that's it, right? We've got our FMC set up. We need to get this on the takeoff page, so go back here, put that on the takeoff page. And now our FMC initialization and flight planning is complete. Alright, so after all that, we are ready to roll right into our taxi and departure briefing. Let me zoom this in a little bit for you. Start up here with our briefing strip and our information. Casper, or KCPR, 5,344 feet. That is the proper airport. ATIS is on 126.15. Casper clearance on 21.9er. Radio is on 22.6 when the tower is inoperable. That's kind of like a CTAF. And then ground on 21.9er. Tower or CTAF on 18.3. And then departure on 20.65. Denver Center on 35.6. A lot of frequencies there, actually. We're going to be taking runway 3. We are right down in this area here. Be taking the Alpha taxiway down to Alpha 1 to hold short. Again, 10,165 feet of runway to work with. Should work out nicely for us. Let's take a look at the departure. Originally, it was going to be a different departure, but not in this case. So it is the Alcos 6 departure. Hold on. Keep coughing in your face here. And we're going to be taking it out to CKW here. So as you can see on departure, you've got that nice little loopy-doopy around, and then line up here with Alcos. And it does require takeoff minimums. You can refer to the airport chart for standard takeoff minimums for all runways, standard or lower than standard, if authorized, with a minimum climb of 300 feet per nautical mile to 7,600 feet. That's not going to be a problem for us. And if we overlay this over our route here, you can see, so originally that's why, because we were planned to go out to DDY. That's our route there, but we're not doing that. Instead, as we depart here, we're going to circle back around to this intersection here, and then to Alcos, and then on from there. And so CKW for us, and then it'll take us up over there. So you can see that works out nicely. Close that out. Boarding is complete now. The only thing that's interesting to me is it gives an initial climb, but it just doesn't really tell us anything. It's just an immediate left turn apparently. So for runway 3, turn left to heading 168. So as soon as we get off the runway here, we just start a left turn to 168. And then when we reach this intersection, it does give us some routing information here. Climb on DDY radial 204. That's the intersection we're looking for coming back to Alcos. And then at or above 7,600 at Alcos. And then we'll be good to go on course from there. So not too difficult, pretty straightforward stuff. Transition altitude 18,000 feet as always in the United States. And that takes care of your taxi and departure briefings. Alright, so we're running just a little behind here. We want to get caught up, so let's do that. Minimums as desired. This is the main panel setup. Flight path vector as desired. Altimeter needs to be set to local, and we had it, but let me get it again. It is 3010. So move this on up. 3010 is pretty high pressure. There we go. 3010 on the altimeter. And where are we at here? Mode selectors on map, center switch as desired, range as desired, course set if needed, flight directors, and now we can just start going into our flow here. So flight directors need to come on, auto throttle can be armed. This is going to be 153. You know, now that I think about it, when we landed here, 148 was our VREF for landing, 153 was our V approach speed, so kind of funny like that. We're going to go up to 300 on here. Top altitude is assigned by ATC anyway, so we're good on that. Arm the LNAV and the VNAV if it'll let us, and it does. Auto brakes go to RTO, and let me just go down the checklist here now. Flight directors are on, auto throttles are armed, MCP speed is set, runway heading is not. Kind of an interesting question here. Would you put runway heading in there, which would be 032 degrees? Or would we put 168 degrees in there, since that's our immediate turn after taking off? I think the requirement, or probably the typical company procedure, is runway heading, right? So let's put this 032. But we need to turn to 168 as soon as we depart. So just an interesting thought there. Altitude set for initial clearance. Autopilot is off. No flags on the primary flight display. Auto brake is set to RTO. Engine instruments are good. Radios are set. We do need to set our squawk code here, so it's going to be 2336 as it always is. Now, I tried to get POSCON to work for this flight, and it's still not working properly. I don't know what the deal is, so I do apologize. But we would just be announcing on CTAF anyway, which maybe in one of these flights here shortly, or here pretty soon, maybe we'll just start doing announcements on CTAF to start getting back into the swing of being on comms. Let's go ahead and test the TCAS. And there, the test has started. Speed brake is down, thrust levers are idle, engine start levers are cut off, and stabilizer trim is set, even though you didn't see it.
Test pass.
That takes care of our main panel setup, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, despite all of my extra talking, we're not that far behind. Let's go ahead and get this APU fired up here. And while the APU is starting, we can come down here and get some doors closed. Close, close. Next page. Close and close. And then we'll set this on the ground connections page, but we can't disconnect anything yet. Waiting for that APU to get up and running, and let's start looking at our pushback and start checklist here. Passenger boarding is completed, doors are closed and locked, clearance for push is obtained, throttles are at idle, start levers are off, packs need to go off, Right click and right click. APU has been started. Fuel pumps can come on. Those guys are already on. Yaw damper can't come on quite yet. Bleed air pressure. Well, we'll check that here once it's up and running. Anti-collision light goes on at this point. And then that's it until we're ready for the actual pushback. APU is just, there it is. Just about ready. Okay, we can turn the ground power off. Give the attendant a call. Come down here. Let's request the pushback while we're at it. There we go. That should get that started. Let's disconnect these guys. Disconnect. And go to menu, FMC, legs page. There we go. Alright. Just waiting on them now. They're nice and slow. I should have started them a little sooner. I forget to do that a lot of times.
We're ready for pushback.
Fantastic. Okay. So the start process is very simple, guys. It's going to be starting with engine number 2. We'll left click to ground. And then we'll come down here. Let's get our engines page on. We'll watch for the N2 to spin up. We'll get the view where we can see it a little better. N2 to come up to 25. Once that happens, then we will bring in the fuel right here, and the rest will take care of itself. So just waiting for them to give us the option for the pushback. I did do an edit push. I edited the pushback. We'll see if it lets me select that or not. And if it does, we'll take it. If not, it'll be nose to the right and tail to the left. I want to make sure I get it right this time. There we go. Use the quick save.
Departure check completed. Bypass pin inserted. Release parking brakes.
Parking brakes released.
Commencing push. All engines clear.
A-Cars is running. We have clearance to start. Starting with engine number 2, left click to ground. And now we're watching. So start valve is open. Low oil pressure will remain for a little while. Watching the N2 to come up to 25. And there's 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Introduce the fuel. Should see the fuel flow start to come up shortly. There it is coming up. Exhaust gas temperature coming up as well. The N1 will start to come up and the low oil pressure will go out. And we should hear a click, and then the start valve open light will go out as well. There it was. Took a little bit longer than I expected, but there you go. Start valve light goes out. That means that the start selector switched back to the off position on its own. Let the engine stabilize. It's usually right around 20 on the N1, 20%. Go ahead and click the left one here. Same thing. Start valve is open. Low oil pressure light is on. N2 starting to come up. Waiting for it to hit 25. That's 2. I don't know why I'm holding over that one. That would just turn engine 2 off. There's 23, 24, and 25. Go ahead and introduce the fuel. Watch for the fuel flow to come up.
Set parking brakes.
Fuel flow's coming up. Exhaust gas temperature coming up. We're waiting on the N1 to start coming up as well.
Waiting your confirmation for good.
There it's coming up, and we will wait for the start valve to close, and I will be back here shortly. Alright, I've already confirmed a good engine start. Let's take a look at our after start checklist. Engine generators need to come on. That's up top here. Select these two here. There we go. Let's get that yaw damper on as well. I'm not sure why they want you to click that on before the engines are running, because it just turns back off, so it doesn't really make sense to me. Anyway, probe heat needs to go on. That's these guys over here. Packs need to go on to auto. Isolation valve needs to go to auto as well. And engine bleeds need to come on. APU bleed can go off. APU can go off. External lights as required. Get those wing lights on. Get those taxi lights on. And master caution light should be off, which it is. Let's hit the recall. Make sure it stays off. And it does. That takes care of our after start checklist. Now as far as taxi goes, we're going to select flaps 5 here. That's 3 clicks on there. That's 2 I've already selected. And there's click number 3 right there. And then other than that, it just basically tells us how to taxi. So let's get the track car coming on. A little jump here. There we go. That was a big jump. Sometimes it makes the weirdest jumps. Alright, and let's take those parking brakes off. Let me just double check A-Cars over here. A-Cars is running. So from push to ready to taxi was 4.5 minutes. Let's go ahead and start taxiing it out here. Little thrust. Once she gets rolling, you can go ahead and bring that thrust back a little bit. You're not going to need a whole lot. I'm going to go ahead and taxi down to the end of the runway there, and once we get there, I will come back on. We'll take care of our before takeoff checklist and get this bird in the air. But as I do, I have a question. If you're paying attention, then answer in the comments. Would you prefer to see the taxi, no matter how long or boring it may be, or how short and fast it may be? Would you like to see the taxi in the videos, or do you like the way I do it right now, which is where I basically cut the taxi out? Let me know down in the comments. Alrighty folks, we're just about to the hold short point of the runway here. Let's take a look at this after takeoff checklist. Master caution light should be off. Click the recall, make sure it doesn't come on. Flight controls have been checked. Flaps are set to 5. The trim is set. Excuse me, goodness. Trim is set and checked. Flight directors are on. Need a little more thrust here to get around this corner. And the takeoff briefing is complete. So as we come up around the corner here, we don't want to go too fast. Let's get that TCAS coming on. There we go. It can be kind of hard to taxi and look around with like track IR and stuff. Let's get traffic on here. Terrain mode on here as well. Weather mode over here. And I don't see any aircraft on approach. So let's go ahead and pull her out on the runway. No, we want all of them. Those are already on. Let's get engine start switches to continuous. Let's get our strobes all the way to strobe and steady. And what else we got here? So, strobe lights are on, wing lights are on, landing lights are on, runway turnoff lights are on, engine start switches are on continuous, auto throttle is armed, and transponder is set to TARA. So, we are ready to go, and I think we can just roll right into the takeoff here. Start bringing the thrust up as we come around the corner. And thrust ref. Don't you like a quick takeoff? It's always nice, isn't it? Alright, airspeed is alive. There's 80 knots. Gotta scratch my head. Looking good. Straight down the center of the runway. Nice and smooth. Hands are still on the throttles.
V1.
Hands off throttles.
Rotate.
And away we go.
V2.
And positive rate of climb. Gear coming up. Don't let that nose get too high quite yet. And start that turn. There we go. Watch the nose. She's going to want to drop on you. Probably a little more nose up trim there. There we go. Remember, just hold the yoke where you want it, right? And then apply trim and release pressure gently as the trim takes over. And that'll make it pretty easy to trim it out. There's our thrust reduction altitude. Looking good. Nice sharp turn on takeoff. I like it. You should be able to see the airfield by now. Yep, just barely back there. And let's get that nose down just a little bit more. That is a sharp turn on departure though, isn't it? There we go. Bring in just a little bit of trim. There we go. Coming up nicely. We can go to flaps 2 now. Looking good. Just following that flight director. That's all you do. Okay. Just watch her closely. It still wants us to speed up a little bit more. I'm comfortable with where we're at right now, though. Let's go to flaps 1. So as we bring those flap settings up, the nose is going to come down a little anyway. Can maybe trim down just a little bit, but that nose is coming down nicely. I'm okay with where we're at. You don't necessarily have to be dead on for everything with the flight director. And flaps coming up now, and I'm going to just let the speed continue to increase because once the flaps are all the way up, it's going to ask us to go to 250 on the speed. There you go. Went to 250. So that's just anticipating what the aircraft is going to do or want you to do. So we're looking good on that. You see how it wants us to continue to speed up. And as we roll out of this turn here, which we will be here shortly, starting to roll out a little bit now, it's going to want to climb on us. Because we've got all that nose up trim as we're going through the turn, help keep her climbing or level. And there's more drag on the aircraft, less lift, and therefore the aircraft wants to climb when you come out of the turn. And we should be starting a left turn here shortly. Yep, there it is already. Looking good. I'm liking it. Let's go ahead and let's get that autopilot on now. I think we're doing pretty good here. We're above 10,000 feet, so let's get those landing lights off, taxi lights off. We can go ahead and take these start selectors off. Track IR coming off as well. A little jump. There we go. Let's get the auto brakes off. Flaps are all the way up. Landing gear lever can go off. Let's take a look at our after takeoff checklist. Positive rate of climb was established. Gear is up. Gear is off. Auto brakes are off. And engine start selectors are off as well. That takes care of our after takeoff checklist, ladies and gentlemen. And that means, once again, it is time for some of that obligatory elevator music. Alrighty folks, we're about 100 nautical miles from top of the descent here, and as always there's a little housekeeping to take care of. First things first, hop down here. We've already gone ahead and selected the arrival and the approach. It's going to be the ILS runway 16 right approach, and we are flying the Nordic 6 arrival. Now it doesn't show it selected because I have no idea why, actually. It should show it selected, but anyway, we're on the Nordic 6 arrival for runway 16 base. Let's go to our initial reference here. We're going to land, let me double check that runway length. It should be super long, 12,000 feet. I think we can land flaps 30, 148. So there we go, that's in there. ILS is 111.9, is that correct? Yes, it is. So we're good on that. And then looking at the arrival itself, we do have an altitude restriction, a hard altitude of 12,000 feet at Weber. So I'm going to go ahead and put this at 12,000 for now, assuming that that'll be our clearance altitude, and then we can adjust as necessary. Bring that on down. There we go, 12,000 feet. Then I'll get the descent started if I'm still talking, which is often the case, while we're doing these arrival and approach briefings. So with that said, let's take a look at Sim Toolkit Pro. There it is, the Salt Lake City Nordic 6 RNAV arrival. Now we're going to transition onto the arrival out here at OCS. I'll bring this down a little bit. Starting up top, first of all, ATIS is on 124.75 or 25.625. Airport elevation 4,227 feet. And the transition altitude is flight level 180 or 18,000 feet. Radar is required. Must have DME. I don't know why it shows DME twice. or GPS, that's RNAV. RNAV and GPS are the same thing. This is for turbojet aircraft only, and on it goes. We're not going to sit there and talk about everything that's on there. Taking a look at the arrival itself, again, coming in at OCS or Rock Springs VOR, down to Cade at 265 degrees, continuing on that track down to CCAC, and then from there it's 261 to LHO, or the Brigham City VOR. Then it's a hard left to 176 degrees. That takes us down here to Carter. We're landing south, so we should expect 15,000 at Carter. And then it's Nordic, and then a left for us to 164 degrees to Weber. There's that hard altitude I spoke of. And then it's vectors from there, but we're going to transition from Weber directly onto the approach. So looking at the approach, again, taking a look at our briefing strip first, there's our ATIS frequencies. Salt Lake City approach on 25.7, Salt Lake City Tower for 16 right is 132.65, and then ground for us is going to be on 123.775. Localizer frequency is 111.90 with a final approach course of 164 degrees. Glide slope intercept at bunker at 6,000 feet. It should be a straight normal Cat 1 ILS for us today. Missed approach procedures, climb to 4,800 feet. Then it's a climbing right turn to 8,100 feet on the 300 degree heading, and outbound on the TCH VOR 249 degree radial. So there's a couple different directions in there, to the Stacko intersection, which is 20 nautical miles out from TCH, and hold. And you see what that looks like here. So you're climbing straight ahead until reaching 4,800. Then you turn to the right, continuing to climb to 8,100. Turn right to 300 degrees until you intercept that 249 degree outbound radial from the TCH VOR, which means we need to have this as our standby frequency in there. And we'll take a look. Probably just like last time, the flight plan or the FMC will already have that that missed approach procedure in the FMC, so that'll be helpful. Transition altitude 18,000 feet. Taking a look at the profile view, 9,000 feet out here at Rough. I forgot to mention that. So we'll come off from Weber. I think it was Weber, right? Yeah. So from Weber, and then it's down to Rough, Euphemy, Beehive, and then Bunker. And those will be 9,000, 8,000, 7,500, and 6,000 respectively. Glide slope intercept at Bunker. Pappy lights on the left-hand side. ALSF2, I should have looked that one up because I forgot it again. It's alternating, it's high-intensity alternating lights with high-intensity, something with sequenced flashing lights is what ALSF2 stands for, and there's an ALSF1 which is similar. I actually have a couple of videos made. One of them includes runway lighting, which is going to be out there probably before you guys see this one anyway. So I have gone over this, just I keep forgetting what these acronyms are, so my apologies for that. Anyway, Cat 1 ILS, decision altitude 4,423 feet or 200 feet AGL. We're going to take the 200 feet AGL. We're looking for runway visual range of 1,800 feet or a half statute mile. And I think we're good to go on everything. That should take care of your your arrival and approach briefings. Get those out of the way over there, and I don't think there's anything else we need to worry about. There was one thing I wanted to check, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, I wanted to see if the missed approach was programmed into the FMC. We can just zoom out here and you can see that it is. That's what shows up in blue here. So this is the missed approach procedure here. So that's always helpful when it's in there. Makes it a lot easier, as we saw on our last approach when we flew into Casper. So that takes care of everything, which means I'm going to get off of here for a few minutes, and I will see you guys when we're getting closer to this approach here. Okay, I lied. We still got a couple things we need to do. We need to set our minimums. We're going to put that at radio, put that at 200. We also need to set our radios. I remembered to do it. I just forgot to do it on camera, so I restarted the recording here real quick. We'll set that to 200. If it'll go, there we go, 200. And then for the radios, it's 111.9. We need that in nav 1 and nav 2. That's 10. 111.9 on nav 1. And 111.9 on nav 2. And then our standby frequency is going to be for the TCH VOR, which is 116.80. Isn't that the same for the last VOR as well? 116.80, that's our standby. Same thing over here. There we go. And we should be good to go on that. And again, the missed approach procedure is programmed into the FMC as well, which will make life super easy for us. Now I'm actually going to go off of here, and I will see you guys when we're just about on the approach. Alright, we're just about a mile from Weber here, and I gotta tell you, I've been enjoying this approach so far. Just flying right along the side of the mountains here. We were even a little closer back there. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I am going to turn off the AI traffic, because I just know something's gonna happen otherwise. So, and as we start to move away from the mountains just a little bit here to get us on to final, coming up to rough here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this approach checklist. The approach is selected and briefed. Nav radios are set for the approach. Landing lights will need to come on. Not yet, actually. We're still too high for that. Auto brakes can be armed. We got tons of runway. So I'm not even going to bother with the auto brakes. I'm not worried about it. Engine start selector switches need to go to continuous. We'll put those on right there. And that's about the gist of it, other than bringing in our flaps and all of that. Let's go ahead and zoom this down one more here. Just a little bit better view. And as we come up to rough here, once we pretty much cross rough, I'll go ahead and activate the localizer. I think we can turn the terrain off there. And we'll turn weather radar on just in case there's any rain falling up there. We'll get some feedback on that, and that'll let us know whether or not we need to concern ourselves with wind shear or a microburst, which has happened to me in the sim. I have hit a microburst in the sim before. So if you've never hit one, well, let me tell you, it's hard to recognize at first, but typically, unless you get a wind shear warning, by the time you recognize it, you're pretty much already in trouble. So get the landing lights on here, and let's get to a proper view, which is going to probably get all messed up when I turn track IR on here. So let me just try and adjust my chair a little bit, see how close to right we can actually get it here. Okay, track IR coming on a little jump. There it is. It's off just a little bit, and sorry, you had to make sure I could find my throttles there. Okay, now we're at 240 knots. We're going to need that speed to come down here pretty soon. Yeah, it's telling us it wants to drag. Not a problem. I don't know why. I mean, we're right at 240, so. Okay, we're past rough. Let's go ahead and hit the localizer switch. Grabs it immediately, no surprise. And then the approach switch. Waiting on the glide slope now. I'm going to go ahead and bring in. Wow, did you see the speed thing bounce back and forth? That was interesting. Go ahead and bring in the first couple settings of flaps here, and the FMC message just saying drag required, and we may need it, we may not. We'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and just throw some out there right now. Start slowing it down. Just waiting for that glide slope intercept. Next setting of flaps coming in here. We're looking good all around. Not too worried about this approach. It's going pretty smooth here. Now, I am going to do speed well, I don't need to because it grabbed the glide slope. So 187 is where it's at right now. I'm going to put it at 180. We're going to kind of ride it in at 180 here for a little bit. Throw some more spoilers out. We need to slow down for sure. Going to flaps 5 here. Yeah, see, I've got the spoilers all the way out right now. Oh, that's alright. We can get gear down now. That's going to throw out some more drag. It's going to help us out nicely. Now, I can see the airfield over here. I don't see a runway directly ahead of us. I see a runway here. Maybe there's one here. Hard to say. Let me pull up the next chart over here. Speed's starting to come down nicely. We can go ahead and take those spoilers back there. We're at flaps 10. Still 180 knots. Let's go ahead and bring that speed down just a little bit more. Right there. And our VREF is 147 now. So flaps 30, 147. So 147 plus 3 is going to put us at 152. Next setting of flaps coming in. Still not seeing the runway, but there are some shadows here which could just be obscuring the view. And let's go flaps 25. Go ahead and bring that speed down a little bit more. There's 160. And again, we're looking for 152. Now I'm starting to see the runway. It's just the shadows obscuring it. Let's go ahead and bring the last setting of flaps in. Flaps 30 coming in and bring the speed down to 152. Let's double check. So we've got our speed brakes are armed. Our flaps are set. We don't need drag right now, even though it's saying that we do. That might just be that old message still on there. Let's clear that off. There we go. And what was our go-around altitude again? Let me double check the chart over here. 8,100 feet ultimately is our go-around altitude. So let's put this at 8,100. Demo all the way up. There we go. 8,100 feet. We've got the runway ahead of us. We'll be exiting the runway to the left. That's the other chart that I wanted to pull up and make sure. Alright, spoilers are armed. Flaps are set at 30. Gear is down and locked with 3 green. Engine start selectors are continuous. Landing lights are on. We are good to go. Let's go ahead and get that autopilot off. There we go. Looking good right now. And let's get those throttles set and take the auto throttle off as well. There we go. We have complete control. It's my aircraft. And we can descend just a wee bit quicker than we are. Yeah, we're getting just a little high there. We don't want to descend too fast though. Should be around 900, 950 feet per minute. And we got just a little high, so I'm letting it go a little bit quicker there. That's brought us back on glide slope. And bring it back up to about 950. There's where we want to be, give or take a little. Back those throttles off just a little bit. We didn't hear a 2,500 foot call out. That was interesting. Maybe we did, and I just wasn't paying attention. All right. Well, let's listen to the rest of the call outs.
1,000.
There we go. Gotta get that speed down a little bit. Looking good here. We're a little high. That's alright. It's coming down. Oh, there was a little chop there, huh?
500.
There we go. That's where we want to be.
400. 300. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
I'm not pulling on it. It's floating on its own. Come on down. There we go. A little rougher than usual, but I'm okay with that. I want to get it on the ground, trying to not float it so much anymore. Still was pretty smooth. It says negative 118 on Sim Toolkit Pro. Let's go and do some manual braking here. Alright, not too shabby. Take her off the runway here. Let's go and get those landing lights. Nope. Fuel pump needs to stay on. Landing lights off. Start the APU. Turn off the engine ignitions. And let's bring her to a nice gentle stop here. Get those spoilers coming up, or down if you will. Flaps coming up. Nice easy stop. There we go. That should bring the flaps all the way up. Track hour coming off. Little jump. There we go. What else we got here? Flight directors can come off. Autopilot's already off. We can take off the terrain mode here. We can take off the weather mode here. We can turn off the TCAS. And let's take a quick look at our after landing checklist here. Speed brake lever is up. Flaps are up. Probe heat can go off. I keep forgetting that one. That's these two way up here. There we go. Probe heat's off. Engine start switches are off. Landing lights are off. Taxi lights are on. Strobe lights go off. Left click this one twice. There we go. Flight directors are off. Transponders on standby, and the APU has been started. So I'm going to go ahead and taxi in, ladies and gentlemen, and when we're about to park this aircraft, we'll come back on here and we'll wrap things up. Alrighty, folks, getting her pulled in here. Let's go ahead and get these taxi lights off real quick. And on in we go. We'll find out here momentarily if they have a marshaller out there for us or not. I tell you what, it's pretty crazy taxiing over here. I don't know how realistic the layout is since it's a default airport, but it's quite the taxi job to get over here, to be honest with you. Apparently they decided Frontier was the default company here, and it doesn't look like there's a marshaller out there. No real surprise, I suppose. That's alright. We'll figure it out on our own, or at least as best we can. Swing around here. Should be right about there, I do believe. We'll find out here in a second. Let's go ahead and get the parking brake on. No, parking brake on. There we go. Track hour coming off a little jump. There we go. Let's see how close we are, huh? We have to go up a little higher here. There we go. Yeah, not quite. Not quite. I'm not really liking that. Let's bring in a little thrust here. See if we can get it moving. Come on. Turn. Turn. There we go. That's a little better. Passengers probably didn't like that too much though, huh? Alright, definitely helps to have a marshaller out there. Come on, brakes, come on. There we go. Alright, jumping back up top here. Let's get the APU power sent out. There we go. And we can go ahead and shut down the engines now. Go straight into opening the doors. FS actions. Let's get ground connections first. That makes more sense to me. Now we can open the doors. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Jump up top. Let's get the seatbelt sign off for the passengers. Attendant call, and let's request deboarding. And now let's take a look at our shutdown and secure checklist. The parking brakes are set. Start levers are cut off. Ground power, I didn't turn it on yet. There we go. Ground power is on. Doors are open. Stairs are coming up. Fuel pumps can go off. All 4 of those guys there. That's already off. Window heat can go off. Oh, excuse me. These 2 guys here can go off. These 2 guys here can go off. Let's see. Cabin utility, IFE passengers, those are off. Signs are off. Window heat is off. Probe heat is off. Electric hydraulics are off. Bleeds need to go off. Oh, excuse me. Isolation valve can be closed. There we go. Recirc fans are on auto. External lighting. Anti-collision and wing lights can go off. What else? Emergency exit lights off. Bam, there we go. And then it's just battery and ground power. Oh, we didn't turn the APU off yet though. Let's turn the APU off. We're on the ground power now, and that means that's going to wrap it up for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Well, not quite. We do need to take care of ACARS really quick. Let's close that out. So on ACARS, our landing rate was -136. A very good landing, in my opinion. We always like to be as smooth as we can, but she floated a little on me. I brought the nose down just a tiny hair, got it to come back down and settle in, and 136 is a good landing rate, I think. So, stop the flight. and scheduled for 50 minutes. This is, again, I'm going to talk to the guys. I think our flight times need to be adjusted. However, you don't lose anything for it. It's not like an error. It doesn't go against you on the pilot report. But it is nice to be within the scheduled flight time. So let's go ahead and file the pilot report. Okay. And if you haven't had a chance, guys, swing on over to macairvirtual.com. We got a lot of everything going on over there. We've got several different divisions. We got the open division. You can fly what you want, when you want, where you want. Doesn't matter. We've got the cargo division, which is very similar to the open division. We've got a historical division. You can fly everything all the way back to a DC-3, the Constellation, and you can fly them on some of the original routes. We have those in there. We've also got some tours in there that are related to those. We've got the professional division, which is a really structured, difficult progression. And then we've also got our charter division, which we have with our partners, Mirage Executive Charters. And you fly all of those, any of those, from one profile. So you don't have a bunch of different profiles, a bunch of different logins, nothing like that. It's all one profile, guys. We literally have something for everybody over here. So give us a look. Head on over to macairvirtual.com. You know, our minimum flight requirement is one flight per 60 days. I mean, that's nothing, guys. So check it out if you're interested. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and smash the subscribe button. Up over 8,500 subscribers, shooting for 10,000 at the end of the year in some sort of giveaway. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. That lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you didn't like it, by all means, give it a thumbs down. But please give some sort of kind yet constructive criticism down in the comments so that I can try and do a better job in the future. That's it. That's all and no more, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, as always, keep the blue side up unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all and have an absolutely wonderful day.